Hey folks, happy hump day everyone, and welcome back to Plain Speak, where we pick the brains of industry experts in the CX world for a 30-minute chat on the intersections of customer service and technology. Super excited for today's guest. We have Ben Segal, who's the VP of Customer Experience at Thesis. And while we share an obsession over customer service and keeping that top of mind, today's conversation is not just about, CS superintelligence, but brain stimulation too. And that's because Thesis is the first personalized brain supplement brand that creates customized nootropics to activate every kind of mind. So Ben brings over a decade of experience in the customer support space to ensure that Thesis's 500,000 plus customers across all of their proprietary blends have a top-tier CS experience. Numbers don't lie. We're big on metrics here. As customer satisfaction at Thesis clocks in at over 96%. So for those of you joining us for the first time, my name is Liz Tsai, and I am the CEO and founder of HiOp. HiOp is the leading customer support solution that scales dynamically based on a company's evolving needs and volumes. Our proprietary customer support engine, HiQ, leverages a little bit of generative AI and a whole lot of human workflow automation to tackle even the most complex of customer requirements. So HiOp uses AI and automation to understand each customer query better, cater to every customer's unique needs, and create precise, empathetic responses at scale. Our friends at Thesis create highly personalized nootropics, which are nutrient compounds that are shown to support motivation, creativity, mood, memory, focus, and cognitive processing. The company supplements aren't one size fits all, and that's why they help customers discover what's possible with blends optimized for each individual's goals and lifestyles. It's Ben's job to ensure that all Thesis customers have a unique experience when they're discovering their proprietary nootropics blend, and they continue to be personalized and attended to as they begin their nutritional journey with Thesis. In addition to hosting Ben, who I'm super excited for, we're also coming to you from a special place. Today, I'm coming to you live from San Francisco at the VentureBeat Transform conference. I'm thrilled to be here representing HiOperator among the leading generative AI companies and founders. It's a special day for us at HiOperator as well. We've been nominated for the Women in AI Entrepreneur Award. I'm really excited to be here amongst a bunch of other founders working in the space. So thank you all for tuning in. As just one quick housekeeping note, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them into the chat over there. If we don't get to them during the session, we'll reach out and post answers on LinkedIn. Ben, thank you for being here. It's fantastic to have you. And I'm excited for the audience to get your thoughts on the changing landscape of customer service, how technology is reshaping this space, and your experience at Thesis. So just to start us off, given that Thesis is in the supplements category, can you share a little bit about how that affects the customer support experience that you provide for customers?
Yeah, sure. And thank you so much for having me today. I'm really, really pumped to be here. So surprisingly, we're able to have really robust conversations with our end users. We even have coaches on the staff in my org who really do work closely with the people to ensure that they're getting the most out of our product. So coming into it myself, as I'm still somewhat new to Thesis, I thought the same way, that there would be a lot of restrictions around this. And yes, while we can't give medical advice, and we definitely say always check with your doctor, we're still able to have great conversations with people and let them know how best to use our products or how they may be working for them. Something that I do think is somewhat unique to us, though, is that if someone reaches out to us and says, hey, I took this and I'm not feeling great, or it didn't make me feel awesome, I felt dizzy or woozy, our whole CX team is trained to advise against using the product. And so we'll always lean on that as our crutch and say, look, if you don't feel awesome on this, don't use it. And I think that's unique to us in CX at Thesis, because usually CX will function as an extension of sales, and they'll say, hey, how are you going to upsell? How are you going to cross-sell? We're not doing that. We're trying to do right by the customers, and we train people specifically to always say, look, an option is just not taking it, and we're totally fine advising that. If we're not the right thing for everybody, that's totally okay, and we want to make sure that our customers are safe and that they're using the products in the right way. So I think that's where we're a little bit unique.
sorry, muted. I love that focus on sort of the long term, right? It's not just, what can you guys upsell and cross sell now? But the other thing that's really kind of interesting about Thesis is there's sort of two sides to the customer experience, right? You've got the black and white, you've got the logistics, the hey, where's my order? It didn't arrive, all the usual e-commerce things that you talk about. But then you just talked a little bit about coaching as well there, right? When you think about scaling, leveraging tools, things like that, how do you think about those two parts, the coaching and the experience, as well as the hey, logistics, where's my stuff?
Yeah, I think you sort of have to do both. And Thesis is in a unique spot where we're trying to see where we can use AI, where we can find automation to really go after those low-hanging fruit questions that are really typical of any D2C e-commerce brand. Where's my order? Can I return this? Can I exchange it? All those, like, there's great back-end APIs that we can plug into, and we can service those. Where on the coaching side, that's really not, firm ground for AI. Like, you really do need a human, and more than a human, like an expert, in the loop to have those conversations with people and tell them personally what's right for them and how this is going to help them improve their lives. So I think how I'm tackling this at Thesis is saying, where can I use AI appropriately to assist people in a great way for them that's also efficient for me to run my department, and use the experts where they're best needed. And right now, that's in the coaching program for sure.
I love it. You're trying to keep the experts in the loop, but experts are also very valuable, right? So it's really how do you supercharge them, automate the low-hanging fruit, as you called it, to make sure that they're in the right spots for the customer at the right point. I love that. So one of the things that was really exciting for this conversation for me today was, Ben, before Thesis, you've been at actually a bunch of really fast scaling consumer brands, right? What was it like to scale Freshly and then pair eyewear's CX departments from a couple dozen people to hundreds of people over the space of a couple of years? What were the lessons learned there? How do they influence you today?
Yeah, I mean, we could go on forever on all the different lessons learned. At Freshly, it was 12 people to nearly 500. At Pair, it was like 20 people to 195. And this is over years, and you learn a lot over that time. But some high level things I think come top of mind are building out a best in class tech stack. Like, you need to know what technology is available to you and how to best piecemeal those together to create a best in class tech stack for your particular CX now. Got to get top tier talent. You need a training program, you need a QA program. All of these things you really want to make sure that you have in advance of that scale, right? So you want to sort of lay that foundation that you then can grow on. So you need to be thinking not where you are today, but where you want to be 5 steps from now. Like, always playing chess and thinking, I need to get this in place today before we get to where I know we're going to be a year from now. I don't want to be like building the plane while in flight. That gets really, really difficult.
That makes a lot of sense. And for any people here who might be thinking, hey, how am I going to double, triple, quadruple? As you went along those journeys at Freshly and Pair, were there any specific maybe inflection points that might stick out in memory where you either saw them or didn't saw them and wished?
Yeah. So there's a bunch that come. I feel like there's always a big challenge in jumping from, like, when you're at 10 people to 20 people. That's where you really start to feel things start to break. Like, systems you had in place at 10 may not work at 20. And then from 20, you sort of like can coast a little bit till you get to 50 people. 50%, more things break. And so there are these certain inflection points on the way to hundreds and hundreds of people that you'll notice things are not working as well as they did when the team was a little bit smaller. And so, having lived that journey twice now, I'm trying not to feel that again at Thesis and say, I know these are things that are going to come. Let's skip that and get best in class tech stack in place today, lay that foundation so that hopefully less things break along that journey of scale.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. And I think this sort of comes along with, you've talked always a lot about including, strong tech stacks, right?
Yeah.
As part of your CS architecture. You've got the people, but you need the tech stack. Can you talk a little bit about, what are some maybe first things in terms of automation that are coming to mind for you at Thesis now, or have come to mind for you historically that helps set up an organization for that sense of success as they scale?
It's a great question. Another one of these that like we could talk about forever and ever. One I'll give that first comes to mind here is like tagging, right? Most CX teams are manually tagging so that they can tag the intent of that ticket. But there are things now like NLP and machine learning, they really do understand the intent extremely well, especially if there's even like multiple intents in the email. And we can tag those tickets in real time automatically with great AI. Then we can route those tickets to the appropriate person to have like true skills based routing. And we played with this a lot at Freshly. We found that if you can get the right ticket to the right person at the right time, that's a game changer, not only for the company, but for the customer as well. We really get to understand the customer and make sure that they're not having a struggle. And we're living in a world now where this technology is widely available, right? And it's really, really helpful. So I'm a big proponent of saying like, let's use that to our benefit. Let's see how we can capitalize on this, find what's right for my brand. So again, like we build that strong foundation now using this incredible technology so that it's a great end user experience while the agents also have an easier time and CX isn't such a drag of a job for your frontline guy.
What strikes me there is that it really sounds like the path to success being a finely tuned, excellent customer experience org, right, is actually laid with a lot of strategy along the way, right? Because I think, and I fall into this sometimes too, is people go, let's AI it, right? Let's put it through the AI magic fryer and see what comes out the other end.
Okay.
And I think what I'm hearing here is that it's actually a very targeted, strategic approach, right? It's like before you can automate things, you have to sort of understand what it is that you have in your inbox. So then you can route and then you can automate, and then you can make sure you have all of your resources, right? Whether that's software or humans or whatever, distributed in the right place.
Yeah. There's
I
one
love
other thing I will call out on that, on the tagging front, that it just came to mind that I wanted to call out here. When you have those tags and they're done in a way that you can really rely on that data, if you cross-reference that with purchase behavior, you can really have a voice of the customer program that the whole organization can benefit from, because you'll start to learn things that say like, if a customer complains about X, Y, or Z, and they have this sort of lifetime value, we may be able to define what I call end of life tags, right? So like when they utter this
Ah,
tag, we don't see any more spend coming from that customer. And so we're now not just looking at like volumes of tags to say like, oh, well, this tag is 27% of my volume. That's a problem. That may not be the truth. You may find that on those 27% of tickets that come in with that tag, they all come back and purchase again. So we're solving for a problem that's not actually going to impact retention or LTV. Where on the flip side, you may see something that's 7, 8% of your ticket volume, but when that tag is uttered, $0 more spend. This is a problem. Let's fix this issue and move the needle on retention and LTV. And like if we can really get into that, we're using CX as a way to like drive value to the business, and it's not just that cost center that it's typically been in the past.
yeah, 100%, right? That's how you incorporate CX back in the rest of the org. That's how you get buy-in for when you're trying to plan those 5 steps out as well.
Exactly.
Um, No, that makes so much sense because it feels like this level of instrumentation and correlation and seeing that cause and effect, that's something that like marketing gets to do, right? They track where customers click, they do all those analytics, and customer experience, customer service hasn't sometimes had all those tools because then, as I think you point out, the instrumentation isn't all necessarily there, right? You're not getting that level of uh, on what's being tagged and what's being done.
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah, I think people don't quite think about that as much because it's true. The data is all there, right? You have all the plain text, what the customer wrote, what the agent wrote, but that little bit of, I guess, thinking ahead and implementing the tagging up front is what then allows you to actually get value out the other end.
Totally agree.
Love it. Um, Sorry, we really double clicked on tagging there, which I love. Maybe thinking about tagging and then sort of thinking about what that does downstream to automation. What trends are you sort of seeing in that CS automation that either you guys have started playing around with or you're excited to play with a little bit more?
Yeah, great point. So I would say, like I'm sure everybody else on this call and in the world, ChatGPT was like a big eye opener for me. and thinking especially in like CX, it makes me rethink how AI can assist users in their interactions with brands, and how conversational flow building like AI bots of the past may be just that, right? A thing of the past. So um, I've changed my thought process around what is possible and what should be done internally versus going out to find a tool for. There's constantly been this debate of like build versus buy. And in the chatbot space, it was always a no brainer that this was something you had to go out and buy because it was way too intense to build anything that'd be robust enough at a company like a Freshly or a Pair at scale or where Thesis is going. But that's changed now. If you can train your own model on your own FAQs, on your own previous 500,000 tickets, you can have a really, really intelligent bot that is specific to just you and your brand that you could launch and have an internal homegrown chatbot that's really useful and doing a ton of things. And look, I'm
Yeah.
a longtime user of Ada. I loved Ada. I would still recommend Ada to people today. Over my time, I demoed over 18 different chatbots. I've been on the customer advisory board of Ada. And I look at that and I think, is that going to be where, chatbots and phone bots are going to have to go in the future? And I don't know if it is. It looks like this is something that you're going to be able to spin up on your own. And the possibilities that can come from that when you can have a model that's fully trained on your specific brand, your policies, and have this done with one engineer internally, that's a really, really big game changer. And I think it opens the door to a lot of possibilities in the future, specifically for CX. And I think it's a really bright future from now. And a year ago, this couldn't have existed.
That's true, right? I think just the availability of models and the sort of commoditization of APIs,
Yeah.
where, yes, there's still a ton of data work and optimization to be done, but you don't need to be an ML engineer, right, to really be able to leverage something off the shelf now, which is super, super exciting.
Yeah.
Um,
I want to call
yeah.
it one other thing on that. I was just at CCW Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago.
Mhm.
And one of the big talking points was that customers are extremely frustrated with phone, right? They don't like waiting on hold. They don't like IVRs. Phone bots are not really all that intelligent, not like a fully fledged chatbot yet. Yet most people think that phones are the best way to find resolution to their problem. They don't think there's any other way. No email, no chatbot is going to actually get them to a solution like a phone call will. So what I think
Fascinating.
we're learning is people want that personal experience, and they believe the only way they're going to get that is a human on the telephone who could dig into this for them, understand that they're unique, they're very individual. I say everyone's a VIP, a very individual person, um, and when they have an issue, they turn to this channel that they don't like, but it's because they think it's the only place to get their answer resolved. So part of what I was thinking of in the future is like, if we can use like a ChatGPT type tool and put that on phones and really allow for like great service in a chatbot on the phone, we may be able to fix a channel that is currently a problem that's frustrating and allow customers to use the benefit that AI brings in allowing self-service resolution to a channel that they currently think is where they have to go for the resolution. Got that?
Perfect. Sorry, Ben, you froze for me for a quick second there. But
No problem. No
yeah,
problem.
it's fascinating, right? Because it's not, consumers aren't looking to talk on the phone. They've just been trained to think that that's the way they're going to get that customized, incredible level of support. And I think it'll be really interesting to see what generative AI and ChatGPT can do here, right? As they take that conversational layer that you wouldn't normally expect, and you're able to really, I think the key part maybe is to be able to connect that into the back end. So it's not just a really conversational experience, but it's also really, really specific and has all the data and has all of the facts to complete that experience. I think that's one of the most exciting things personally that I see. Because I think it also touches a lot on what you said earlier is generative AI is not the magic solve it button. There's all this groundwork. You have to have tagging, you have to have the data, you have to have the FAQs, you have to have everything in place, right? That you can then leverage generative AI on top. So there's almost this idea of like brand readiness. That sounds like you guys at Thesis have done a ton of work on that then is going to allow you guys to really supercharge it with the last step.
Yeah, love that.
We'll pull up a quick audience question here from Timothy LaRose. Ben, Tim is wondering if licensed doctors could be brought into your org. If Thesis offers truly healthy products, the credentials could be there to keep people more healthy over larger time scales. What do y'all think?
Totally agree. Definitely want to do this. We do believe in our product. We know that it is healthy. We've had discussions, even just as of yesterday, about placing our third-party lab testing on our ingredients right on the site and letting people see it so that we get some of that credibility. Totally down for getting doctors and letting them have these coaching conversations, because you're right, having to always deflect and say, yes, this is what I think, but here, disclaimer, go talk to your doctor, could be much more helpful if we're like, hey, I have a doctor, he's right here, let me go talk to him or her. Totally in favor of doing that. It's a big project to do. It's costly to do. And with the growth we've seen thus far, with the coaches we have, it's not necessarily like a pain point, more like a nice to have for us right now. So it's on the long-term vision of where we think Thesis will go, but probably not something we're doing like immediately this year.
Awesome. No, appreciate you elaborating on that. The more expert, the more the expert advice is, right? The more expensive, the more targeted. But that's an exciting future to design, it sounds like.
Totally.
Cool. So you touched maybe a little bit on what you guys did in terms of having an internal engineer just be able to pull something off the shelf, precede it with your data, and build something really cool out the other end. Are there any other tips about this idea of automation or generative AI readiness that you might come to mind for you, Ben?
Yeah, there's a number of tools that I've seen that you can add on to your help desk. Some are sort of in like stealth beta mode. Some are just coming onto the market for the first time, where you could like very quickly summarize a very long thread of tickets and allow agents to see in real time, 3 points of what this thread has been, so that they can very quickly orient themselves and then get into writing the response. You can also click a button and say like generate response for me. And so maybe having a library of macros is going to be a thing of the past. And rather, we're going to create a macro in real time that you then can edit if you wanted to. So there's a number of things that I've seen that have like opened my eyes to the possibilities and really changed the way that CX has been run for the last decades. But
Yeah.
it's going to be really, really interesting to see what comes of it once we see like the winners here and like what is going to become the norm over the next probably year or two. I think we're going to see where we're at.
It makes a lot of sense. Right? There are all these little things that make things sort of 10% better, but it's really the last 10% that really outsizedly impacts that customer experience.
Totally agree. Yeah, and I think,
Right.
I mean, I always try to drive this stuff back to like in person, because the whole beginning of my career was in person customer experience, and like I always say this, that you could do everything perfectly, but if you're not smiling when you do it, it's all for nothing, right? But that little
Yeah.
thing at the end, like as if you have that smile, then everything else hits home. And I think it's the same thing in like this digital e-commerce D2C world, where like it's that little thing extra that makes everything else actually hit home, and that's where we need to get to.
Yeah, that little bit extra there. Love it, Ben. I know everyone, a good portion of our audience is headed to lunch, so we'll keep this snappy. But as a final question here, each week there's a rolling question from our guest the previous session. So Ben, yours is coming from Thomas Jones, the VP of Operations and Customer Success at Zeal, who we spoke to 2 weeks ago. And what location in the world and or activity, Ben, is on your bucket list?
Ooh, good question. I always go to this. It's the Great Pyramids in Egypt. I've always been obsessed with ancient Egypt, how advanced they were back in the day, and I think that's like the big thing on my bucket list. I want to make it there for sure.
Got to do it, Ben. That's super exciting. Now, if you had one next rolling question for our next guest in 2 weeks, what would that be?
Ooh, all right. So this is a good one. I use it in interviews sometimes. If you could have a one-on-one dinner tonight with anyone, alive or dead, who would that dinner be with, and where are you dining tonight?
Interesting. Wait, who would that be for you, Ben?
Oh, good question for me. So mine, I'll pick someone alive. Barack Obama is a big one for me. I would love to have dinner one-on-one with Barack Obama, and I'll pick whatever the fanciest steakhouse in DC is. I'll go out. He knows the area. I'll let him pick.
There's one place with fancy steakhouses. It's got to be DC. No,
Yes,
love
exactly.
it. Ben, it's been a really unique time hearing you speak about how Thesis helps individuals realize their strongest cognitive potential. I got to look this up myself. But also how you've orchestrated a CS journey that supports them every step of the way, and how you think about scaling teams and automation readiness. Huge thanks to you, Ben, and thanks again to everyone else who tuned in to spend some time with us today. If you have any customer support questions, please reach out and come join us for our next Plain Speak on Wednesday, July 26th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be chatting with Annalise Poda, head of support at HipCamp, to discuss how customer support is powering summer weekend getaways in the great outdoors this year. Guys, thank you so much. Super, super appreciate everyone's time. Have a good one.